How did product managers get so poor? People always ask me, Rich, like, how much can product managers make? What's the average salary? What do you think I'm worth? How much money do you think I can go out there and get? The truth of the matter is, like, we all have a limited amount of time on this earth, and we want to make the most amount of money possible with our time. So I'm going to go ahead and actually give you some insight. I already know I'm going to be pissing off a lot of my friends that are in recruiting by saying this, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rich. I'm the founder of Product Gym and Elevate. And I help, essentially speaking, I'm a glorified resume writer and interview coach, right? But I decided to, somehow I made a business out of it. But product managers people used to get into product management, become shit rich. And right now, a lot of product managers feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck. How did that come out to pass? And basically, what can you go ahead and actually do about your situation right now? So, if you really don't know me, some of the people that even do didn't know this, but I'm actually a history major. I graduated from Loyola Marymount University with a history degree, and I was kind of on the track of going to law school and becoming an entertainment lawyer. Due to various reasons, people actually convinced me that going that route wasn't a very smart thing to do, which I'm very happy with going into tech recruiting. But long story short, about 2014, I would say the senior level product manager salary was about $375,000. And right now, most senior product managers are making about 200, 250. If you're coming out of our program, you're probably doing about that much, depending on years of experience, but also how many offers. Because the more offers that you have, you basically can leverage it to rack up to a bigger offer. But let's talk about like why is there a discrepancy between like a $375,000 10 years ago and 375,000 was actually worth a lot more 10 years ago. And then right now with 9% inflation, how did it get to 200, 250 for senior level talent? And were the 375K level jobs, which are like, how did that become to eviscerate? Well, I'm going to be real with you. Most people used to get into product management because they wanted to go out there and get rich. It was a way for you to go into tech. It was a way for you to go into tech and not necessarily have a coding background, but you could be a part of the tech process. And it was to go for an acquisition, or the next best thing was an insane IPO. That's no longer the case. Why is that no longer the case? One word: regulation. If you take a look at like a podcast like All In, they regularly interview a lot of these Silicon Valley like titans, and they started off as product management. You would traditionally join a company, a startup, and there was a very clear plan, just like how if I was part of like Goodwill Hunting Project, like we're gonna take a script and we're gonna go out there and sell it, right? That's our packaged product. And there was like a mobile app or some kind of application where you're gonna go out there, and we all got into this knowing that we were gonna sell. But the number of acquisitions that have happened in the last 10 years have significantly gone down versus what it was, I would say, previous decade, right? And that's because if you take a look around, there's not exactly a whole lot of innovation in the tech space. And I'm not just saying this because I'm Chinese American, but if you take a look at what China's doing right now, they're throwing out product up, down, left, right, and center. And why is that? Well, I don't want to get political about it, but tech companies don't spend the majority of their time actually building shit. They spend the majority of their time fighting regulation. That's actually where they spend the majority of their money, fighting regulation. This is why, if you take a look, fact check me, call me bullshit, pretend I'm fucking lying to you. You should do your absolute research and then call me out on the comments if I'm wrong. There's been so much YouTube content on has Silicon Valley gone MAGA? Yeah, because what they realize is if we get our own people into positions of government, that it's going to make regulation a lot less difficult for us to just get things done. But that's been kind of what's been happening. The next off, so product managers, like, I think they completely forgot that this was a field where you were going to be a product manager. Like, you got into this to be at some point a millionaire. There's no such thing as a product manager millionaire in terms of an acquisition anymore. The next best thing is IPO, but we're not really seeing a lot of IPOs either, right? And the number of companies that number of startups that a VC has had to invest in, every single year, I don't know how much longer this model is going to be sustainable. Some would argue that it's not sustainable anymore, is that they're investing in more and more and more startups just to possibly get the same return. It used to be at one point like you'd have to bet on 100 startups to get one of them to pop. Now then it was like 400, then it was like 1,000, then it was like 2,000. I know these metrics pretty well, not only working in tech recruiting, but they used to like love flexing that on Shark Tank, saying it's so much better to get a deal here versus like if you went to like Silicon Valley or like get like just a regular investor. Just arguments to be made on that side. So, Rich, if that's the case, like what's left, man? Is there any hope? Okay, well the hope is this, right? You become a product management influencer. That's what the younger generation of product managers and tech professionals have basically figured out. Is to be an influencer where you leverage your brand to go ahead and actually create secondary income, because there's an opportunity cost. In order for you to participate and be a part of an acquisition, you would have to trade about 24 months of your life. And let's just assume, and this is a big assumption with a capital A, that everybody was on the warpath. And a lot of people are not, right? There's still a lot of shit that can happen where you're not going to get acquired. You can be all in for the next 3 to 5 years and still not get an acquisition. When you're talking about the Apple and the Facebook era, they were not making money for a very long time. And you also have to ask yourself, do you want to be subjugated to that? Let's just say if all things stayed the same. I don't think a lot of people have the grit and persistence to do that. I myself do not have the fire that I did when I first started my business 8 years ago as I do right now. And got a little bit comfortable. I'm eating pretty good these days too. So that's not exactly like a viable solution, right? Because you're giving all of your time. You're laying out all of your eggs into one basket, and we are thinking it's going to go pop. The second thing is, you're part of an IPO, right? You're part of an IPO where you guys go public. Like I would probably say, like probably the best acquisition of recent memory that I can, and it's not even that recent, is probably like a Honey join Honey. I knew some people that was part of that team. Like that used to be what tech was like probably 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's not that anymore. For product management influencers right now, I don't know if they did it consciously or unconsciously, but they kind of figured out a hack, which is I only got to go out there and create 5 YouTube videos to create a brand. And then I drive all that traffic to Instagram and TikTok and the newsletter. And then I've created essentially a content flywheel for myself. And then I get brand endorsements. And then now I have multiple income streams where I have like 1,000 coming here, 1,000 coming here, 1,000 coming here. And YouTube itself is basically evergreen. So I start off with making a video, a day in the life of a product manager at Spotify. And then I talk about what do I do? What do I actually do? This is my apartment tour. This is my home tour. I said yes. She said yes. And then you will notice I'm going to be creating more content on this. But in the span of 18 months, it's not an acquisition, but you can make about $1 million as a product manager or tech influencer. You no longer harassed to go back into the office. You no longer have to deal with a very stressful work environment. But considering people that do an MBA, it's usually 2 years. Even studying for a GMAT takes 6 months. If you really put your head down to create your own brand in 18 months, it's like that's the new way of becoming a millionaire right now in tech, because it's a more for sure thing. It's probably and like whatever it is that you do, you want to just get a brand, right? Product managers with the brand and tech professionals with the brand, they're less likely to go ahead and get laid off because they have a brand. If anything, they are rewarded with promotions and sponsorship deals and brand ambassador deals, and companies actually treat them with a certain level of regard because they're an influencer. They're essentially a commercial, for a mascot for the company. Let me know how you guys feel about that, but this is actually where it's coming down to, and that's actually influenced a lot of other things in terms of how job hunting works, because the future resume for product managers and tech professionals across the board, it's going to be your YouTube channel and your Instagram following. It's not going to be so much about what it is that you've done, but how much brand recognition you can go out there and bring a company. People can argue how unfair that it is. I'm not going to disagree with it. people I'm not going to go ahead and disagree with it, but the question you have to go out there and ask yourself is this: because for a long time I put off also putting up my own personal brand, right? Because I'm thoroughly actually a pretty private person. Um, would you buy? Do you think anybody, hate him or love him, do you think anybody would buy a Cybertruck from Elon if he wasn't associated with the Tesla brand, as he's like the dude there that's running the shop, right? I don't think so. Nobody buys a Ford because they're like, I'm with Henry Ford, But like people associate Tesla with Elon because what Elon represents is innovation, disruptor, game changer. He does whatever the fuck he wants. He says whatever the fuck he wants. He's the rebel, maverick, rebel. I'm a fan of Elon's. Do I like everything that he does? No. But I do really like the fact that he just does whatever the fuck he wants, because who doesn't want to do whatever the fuck they want, right? So even if you don't agree with like what some of his stances are, people still generally like that about him. So what I tell people is work on, developing the brand, because what product managers need to come to an actualization is this. Tech is a field where you work until you get, and I'm like, don't forget to subscribe to this channel because I'm going to create more and more content on this topic. Tech is a field where, because there has been less acquisitions and less IPOs, what tech companies realize right now is all they got to do is just fire people every 3 quarters and it'll rack up the share price. And then they'll just go out there and aggressively start hiring all over again. People that know this kind of don't seem to care or are too lazy to do anything about it. But it's just like the hurricanes in like Florida, or you live in like California, you understand that there's earthquakes. People know that like every single year there's a fire out there, right? LA is my hometown. I mean, I went to Loyola Marymount University. I had a perfect view from the bluffs of Malibu. Because you see everything from like, those of you guys that are familiar with LA, from PV all the way to Malibu. It's something that's just very in your face. So like people in tech, they know that at some point there's going to be a time when there's going to be massive layoffs and they're going to have to struggle a little bit. This past time has been the worst because now you're competing against AI. Your best defense, which is why join our tech influencer school, because in this day and age right now, you're not competing as a content brand individually, you are competing as a team. And if you want to be part of our essential mafia, come and join the school so we can go out there and we've been actively promoting each other, and you guys are seeing like kind of like our version. Yeah, we're knocking it off completely, the All In podcast. If it was up to me, I was going to call it All Out. Here at this channel, you'll see like we've been actively promoting each other's brands because we're laying down the groundwork for this like to come down in the next 6 months. You don't want to be like one of the last people standing. If you are like at that time, I think however brutal what people has been viewing as brutal in this market is only going to be worse in the upcoming market. It's only going to be worse in the upcoming market because the next round of layoffs, it's already happening. Companies don't just initiate immediate layoffs shy of those, guys at Doge that's out there operating like a freaking scalpel. There's a spreadsheet, list of names of who's on the chopping block ready to go next. And it's like, who are they? How much money do they make with us? What is it that they do? What KPIs are they responsible for? And there's another section, there's another field where it's just, do they have an Instagram following, YouTube following? The people that do are in a very special category of what companies would consider, and we're going to think twice before messing with them because of the backlash. But honestly speaking, even the people that's gotten laid off, they haven't really needed to go out there and get another job. So with that said, please go ahead, join the Tech Influencer School. I'll see you in school. And for nothing else, stay safe out there because times are about to get more volatile. See you soon.